You're 3 years old. You are running through a garden. The grass is wet. Someone is laughing. Maybe you, maybe someone you love. The sun is low and orange and everything feels enormous and safe and real. You have no memory of this, not a single frame, not a sound, not a feeling. One of hundreds of thousands you lived through in your earliest years is simply gone, erased, as if it never happened to you at all. But here's the part that should stop you cold. Your body was there, and your body never forgot. This is not a metaphor. This is not poetry. This is one of the most documented and least understood phenomena in all of human neuroscience. Scientists call it infantile amnesia. And the more they study it, the stranger it gets. Because the memories didn't fail to form. They formed. They shaped you. They are still inside you right now, running silently in the background of everything you feel, everything you fear, and everyone you love. You just can't see them. So where did they go? And why does your body still carry something your mind can't find? To answer that, you have to go back, not to age 3, much further than that. Your brain is not one thing. It never was. What sits inside your skull is more like 3 brains stacked on top of each other. Each one built at a different point in your evolutionary history, each one running its own agenda. The outermost layer, the cortex, is the newest. It handles language, logic, planning, and the kind of memory you can talk about. The kind you can describe to someone else. The kind that has a before and an after. But underneath that sits something older, much older, the limbic system. And buried inside the limbic system is a small curved structure called the hippocampus. The hippocampus is your memory's filing clerk. It takes experiences and converts them into long-term, retrievable stories. It gives memory its address, its timestamp, its place in the sequence of your life. Here's the problem. When you were 3 years old, your hippocampus was not finished. It was still being built. Researchers have known for decades that the hippocampus continues developing well into early childhood. But in 2014, neuroscientist Paul Franklin and his team at the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto discovered something that rewrote the conversation entirely. They found that in young brains, both in children and in young animals, the hippocampus is generating new neurons so rapidly that the existing memory circuits get constantly disrupted. New cells push in. Old connections get overwritten. The very process that is building your brain is simultaneously erasing the records of what happened while it was being built. It is like trying to write a letter on a page that someone is still printing. So the memories of your earliest years were not stored incorrectly. They were stored in a brain that was moving too fast to hold them in place. By the time your hippocampus stabilized enough to begin building durable autobiographical memory, somewhere between ages 3.5 and 4, the early records were already gone. But not all of them. Because while your hippocampus was still under construction, something else was already running, something that didn't need the cortex, something that didn't need language or logic or sequence. Your body was learning. Psychologists call this implicit memory. It is memory without a story, memory without a timestamp. It is the kind of memory that lives in your muscles, your nervous system, your gut. You do not recall it. You perform it. You feel it. You react from it without ever knowing why. Think about the last time you felt an inexplicable wave of calm when someone used a certain tone of voice, or the way your whole body tenses when a specific kind of silence fills a room, or why certain smells send you somewhere you cannot name. That is implicit memory speaking. That is your body replaying something your mind has no footage of. In a landmark series of studies beginning in the 1990s, developmental psychologist Carolyn Rovey Collier demonstrated that infants as young as 2 months old could form and retain detailed memories, but only in the body, not in the narrative mind. Babies she trained to kick their legs, to move a mobile above their crib, remembered exactly how to do it weeks later. The procedural memory was intact. The conscious story of learning it was never recorded. Your earliest years worked the same way. Every time someone picked you up gently, your nervous system logged. This is what safety feels like in a body. Every time a voice raised and the air changed, your system logged. This is what threat feels like before it arrives. Every time you were fed when you cried, your body learned. The world responds to you. Every time you cried and no one came, your body learned something else entirely. You have no memory of any of these moments, but you have been living by their conclusions ever since. This is where the research gets uncomfortable, because what your body learned in those first 3 years did not stay in those 3 years. It traveled with you. It shaped the architecture of your nervous system. It set the baseline for what feels normal, what feels dangerous, and what feels like love. Psychiatrist and trauma researcher Bessel van der Kolk spent decades documenting how early bodily memory operates in adults. His work showed that people who experience disruption in their earliest years, even disruption they have absolutely no conscious memory of, carry it in their bodies in measurable ways. Elevated cortisol, a nervous system that reads neutral situations as threatening. A body that is still responding to something that happened before it had words for anything. The body keeps the score. That phrase, which became the title of his landmark book, is not a metaphor. It is a description of a biological process. Your body is literally keeping a record that your mind cannot access. And this is the part that almost no one tells you. Those early bodily memories are not just emotional, they are physical. They shape your posture, your breathing patterns, the way your stomach responds to conflict, the speed at which your heart rate climbs in uncertain situations, your capacity for stillness, your tolerance for closeness. You did not choose any of this. You were 3 years old. You were still learning what your hands were. But here's where the story turns, because knowing this changes something. Most people spend their adult lives confused about their own reactions. Why do I pull away when someone gets close? Why does criticism feel like an attack even when it isn't? Why do I feel safest when I am alone, or never safe when I am alone? They search for the answer in memories they can tell a story about, in the things they can remember. But the source is earlier, stored somewhere the narrative mind cannot reach. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio's work on somatic markers, the body signals that guide decision-making before the conscious mind has even processed the situation, suggests that what we call intuition is, in large part, the body's memory speaking faster than thought. That feeling in your chest before you can name why, that pull toward or away from something before logic weighs in. That is your body's earliest education, running automatically, still trying to keep you safe using rules it wrote before you had language. The rules were written for a world that no longer exists, for a version of your life that ended before you could remember it. But they are still running. So what do you do with that? You cannot remember being 3 years old. You will never get those memories back. The hippocampus that was too busy growing to hold them has long since stopped growing. The footage is gone, but the body is still there, and the body can be listened to, not with the part of you that narrates and explains and tries to make sense of everything, with something slower, something that notices the tightness before the thought, the exhale before the calm, the way your shoulders drop when something is finally genuinely safe. Researchers in somatic psychology and trauma science have spent the last 30 years developing ways to work with exactly this layer of memory, not by talking about it, but by moving through it, by teaching the nervous system new conclusions through new experiences in the body, not because the old memories can be erased, but because the body is still learning. It never stopped. You were 3 years old once, running through a garden, feeling the wet grass, hearing someone laugh. You don't remember it, but somewhere in the way you feel when the air is warm and someone near you is happy, your body still does.